The ship was bigger than any city on Earth. Captain Tejo stood at the window of the small human shuttle and looked at it. The alien vessel blocked out the stars. It was so large that his mind could not fully understand what he was seeing. "They want us to dock at Section 47, said Sergeant Daesoon from behind him. The soldier's voice was calm, but Tejo could hear the tension underneath. "Should I tell them we're ready?" Tejo nodded slowly. Tell them. This was the day humanity had waited for. First contact. Real first contact. Not just signals from space, but actual aliens inviting Earth to meet them. The Galactic Concord, they called themselves. 12 ancient civilizations working together for thousands of years. They had finally noticed the little blue planet in an unremarkable corner of the galaxy. The shuttle moved forward. Tejo watched as massive doors opened on the alien ship. Inside, lights of colors he had never seen before guided them to a landing platform. When the shuttle touched down, Tejo took a deep breath. Remember, he said to his small team, we represent everyone. Every human who ever lived. Every human who will ever live. Stay calm. Stay respectful. And no matter what happens, stay strong. The doors opened. The air smelled strange, like flowers mixed with metal. Tejo stepped out first. The aliens were waiting. There were so many different kinds. Some were tall and thin, with skin like silver water. Others were short and covered in something like fur. A few floated in the air, their bodies made of light and shadow. Tejo had seen pictures from the transmissions, but seeing them in person was different. His heart beat fast, but he kept his face calm. A creature stepped forward. It was a Velthary, the species that led the Concord. It stood 3 meters tall, with 4 arms and eyes that glowed soft blue. Its voice came out smooth and perfect, translated instantly by the device hanging around Tejo's neck. You are the humans, the Velthary said. It was not a question. I am Captain Tejo. I speak for Earth. The Velthary looked at him for a long moment. Then it made a sound. At first, Tejo did not understand. Then he realized it was laughing. Other aliens joined in. The sound filled the massive hall. Some of them pointed at the humans. Others turned to each other and spoke in voices too fast for the translator. But their meaning was clear. They found this funny. They found humanity funny. Tejo felt Dasong step closer behind him. The sergeant's hand moved toward his weapon. Tejo gave a small shake of his head. Not now. Not yet. The Velthary finally stopped laughing. Forgive us, it said, though its tone suggested it was not sorry at all. We have watched your species for some time. Your little rockets. Your wars over patches of dirt. Your belief that you are special. It leaned down, bringing its face close to Tejo's. You are Class 9, the lowest rank. Primitives. You have nothing to offer us. Then why invite us here? Tejo asked. His voice did not shake. Entertainment, the Velthary said simply. The galaxy enjoys watching new species learn their place. Your evaluation will be broadcast to trillions of viewers. Try to be interesting. The evaluation lasted 3 days. Human scientists presented their best technology. The aliens laughed at their fusion reactors. Human artists showed their greatest works. The aliens called them crude and simple. Human diplomats spoke of peace and cooperation. The aliens said these were the words of children who did not understand how the universe worked. On the final day, the Concord made their announcement. It was broadcast across the galaxy, just as they had promised. Billions of screens on billions of worlds showed the moment when the Velthary Council declared humanity officially the lowest species ever recorded. Class 9, the lead Velthary announced. Primitive, violent, limited. We grant them probationary membership as a gesture of mercy. They will be assigned to the Outer Rim, where they can develop without disturbing more advanced civilizations. The galaxy laughed. It became the most watched broadcast in Concord history. Clips of humans fumbling with alien technology spread everywhere. Jokes about Earth became popular. For a few weeks, humanity was the funniest thing in the universe. Then everyone forgot about them. Everyone except the humans themselves, back on Earth. Dr. Yuna watched the broadcast in her underground laboratory. She was a physicist, one of the best on the planet. For 20 years, she had worked on theories that other scientists called impossible. Now, watching aliens mock her entire species, something inside her went cold and hard. She turned off the screen. She walked to her computer. She opened files that only 3 people on Earth knew existed. Her phone rang. It was Taeho calling from the shuttle on the way home. "You saw it," he said. "I saw it." "The Outer Rim," Taeho said quietly. "They're sending us to the most dangerous place in the galaxy. Pirate territory. War zones. They expect us to die quietly out there." "What do you want to do?" Yuna asked. There was silence on the line. Then Taeho spoke, and his voice was different now. The respectful diplomat was gone. In his place was something older. Something that humanity had carried in its blood since the first human picked up a rock and decided to survive. "I want to make them choke on their laughter," he said. Yuna smiled. It was not a kind smile. "I have something to show you. Come to my lab when you land. Bring people you trust." "What is it?" Yuna looked at her screen. The equations there would change everything. The aliens thought humanity was primitive because they used chemical rockets. They thought humans were stupid because they had not discovered certain technologies yet. But what they did not understand was simple. Humans had not stopped looking. Humans never stopped looking. "It is called dimensional folding," Yuna said. "The Concorde has been trying to perfect it for 10,000 years. Their engines are the size of moons and yours." Yuna touched her screen gently. "Mine fits in a shuttle. Give me 2 years and it will fit in a backpack." On the other end of the line, Taeho was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was steady. "They gave us 10 cycles to prove ourselves. That is about 20 Earth years." "We will not need that long," Yuna said. No, Taeho agreed. "We will not." Far away, in the great halls of the Concorde, the Velthari celebrated another successful evaluation. They had put another primitive species in its place. The universe was orderly. The hierarchy was maintained. Everything was as it should be. They had no idea what was coming. 6 years passed. The galaxy forgot about Earth. The jokes stopped being funny. The broadcasts stopped playing. Humanity became nothing more than a small note in Concorde records. A forgettable species living in forgettable space. The Outer Rim was everything the Concorde had promised. It was dangerous. It was lawless. Pirates hunted weak ships. Slavers took anyone they could catch. Old wars between forgotten species still burned in dark corners. The Concorde sent their trash here, their problems, their embarrassments. They sent humanity here to die. Humanity refused, Captain. Taeho stood on the bridge of the first human outpost, looking out at the stars. The station was small and ugly, built from scraps and stolen parts. It was nothing compared to Concorde stations. But it was theirs, and it was growing. Lieutenant Hannah walked up beside him. She was young, barely 30, but she had proven herself 100 times over in the past 6 years. Her mind worked differently than other officers. She saw patterns where others saw chaos. She found victory where others saw only death. "Another raid last night," she said. "Torvak pirates. 12 ships. Losses? 2 cargo shuttles. No crew deaths. We evacuated in time," Taeho nodded slowly. 2 shuttles was better than last month. Last month they had lost an entire outpost. 47 people. He still saw their faces when he closed his eyes. "And our response?" he asked. Hannah smiled. It was a small smile, but there was something sharp in it. "Wujin finished the modifications. We tracked them to their base. I sent a team. Results? All 12 pirate ships destroyed. Their base is now our base. We recovered our cargo and found 3 times more. Also, we freed 200 Silith prisoners they were planning to sell." Taeho turned to look at her. 200. They had nowhere to go. Their homeworld was destroyed decades ago. They asked to stay with us. This was not the first time this had happened. Word was spreading through the Outer Rim. Quietly, carefully, but spreading. The humans were different. The humans fought back. And when you helped them, they helped you. When you earned their trust, they protected you in the lower levels of the station. Engineer Wu Jin was covered in grease and alien fluids. His workshop was a mess of parts from a dozen different species. He worked alone most of the time, talking to himself as he built things that should not work. "No, no, no," he muttered, pulling apart an alien weapon. "This is stupid. Why would you design it like this? The power flows backward through the crystal. So much waste." He rebuilt it in 3 hours. The original weapon had a range of 200 meters. His version had a range of 2 kilometers. It used half the power and weighed a third as much. This was what Wu Jin did. He looked at alien technology and asked the questions that aliens had stopped asking thousands of years ago. Why does it work this way? Does it have to? What if we tried something different? The Concorde had achieved technological perfection centuries ago. They had stopped innovating because they believed there was nothing left to innovate. Every ship, every weapon, every tool was the same as it had been for generations. Humans did not think like that. Humans looked at perfection and saw room for improvement. On another deck, a young diplomat named Mina sat across from a Keth refugee. The Keth were small creatures with hard shells and many legs. This one was old. Its shell cracked and faded. It had been a prisoner for 40 years before humans freed it. "Why?" the Keth asked. Its voice was like stones rubbing together. "Why did you help us?" "We have nothing to give you. We are weak. We are worthless." The Concorde said so. Mina reached out and gently touched the old Keth shell. "The Concorde said the same thing about us. They were wrong about humans. Maybe they were wrong about you too." The Keth was silent for a long time. Then it made a sound that Mina's translator could not understand. Later, she learned it was a Keth word that had not been spoken in generations. It meant hope. Mina was building something. Not with metal and wires like Wu Jin. She was building with trust and promises. Every freed prisoner, every protected refugee, every broken species that humans helped became part of something larger, an alliance that had no name. A network that the Concorde did not know existed. Far from the outpost, Dr. Yuna worked in her new laboratory. It was hidden inside an asteroid, protected by layers of rock and silence. Only a handful of people knew it existed. She stood before her greatest creation. It was small, no bigger than a closet. But inside that small space was technology that would change everything. The Dimensional Fold Drive. Version 7. The Concorde version required massive ships and enormous power. Their fold engines were the size of mountains. They could bend space, but slowly, carefully, with great difficulty. Yuna's version was different. She had asked the questions that Concorde scientists stopped asking long ago. Why did fold drives need to be so big? What if the equations were approached differently? What if everything they knew was based on old assumptions that no one bothered to question? It had taken 6 years. Thousands of failed attempts. Moments when she wanted to give up. But now, finally, it worked. She activated the drive. The small shuttle in front of her flickered. Then it vanished. 3 seconds later, it reappeared. According to her instruments, it had traveled 40 light years in those 3 seconds. Yuna sat down heavily. Her hands were shaking. 40 light years. In 3 seconds, the fastest Concorde ships needed a week to travel that far. She picked up her communicator. Teho, it works. On the bridge of the human outpost, Captain Teho received the message. He closed his eyes for a moment. 6 years of suffering. 6 years of loss. 6 years of being laughed at and forgotten and written off as nothing. It was almost time, but not yet. They needed more ships. More allies. More preparation. The Concorde was vast and powerful. Humanity was small and new. They would only get one chance. "How long until we can build more drives?" he asked. 6 months, Yuna answered. "Maybe less." "I have been teaching Wu Jin. He has ideas for improvements, of course he does." Lieutenant Hannah appeared at his side. "Sir, we received a report. A Velthari scout ship passed through our sector. It scanned one of our patrol vessels before we could hide. Taeho frowned. Did they see anything important? Unknown. The scout jumped away before we could intercept. Far away, in Valkyrie space, a scout pilot reviewed his sensor data. He had been bored, passing through the primitive human territory. He had expected to find nothing interesting, but the readings from that human ship did not make sense. The power signatures were wrong. The engine output was impossible for a vessel that size. Something was not right. He sent his report to Concord Intelligence. Marked it as low priority. Probably just a sensor error. The humans were primitives, after all. Everyone knew that. The report sat in a database unread, while humanity continued to prepare. The revolution was coming. The galaxy just did not know it yet. The Morthok came without warning. They were a species from beyond Concord space, a warrior race that had spent centuries building their strength in the darkness between galaxies. Now they wanted new territory. They wanted Concord worlds. 3 border planets fell in the first week. The Concord fleet responded, sending thousands of ships to stop the invasion. But the Morthok were prepared. They had studied Concord tactics for generations. They knew every move before it happened. In the great halls of the Concord Council, panic spread like fire. The Valkyrie leaders argued with each other. Other species demanded action. Fleets were repositioned, but it took time. Bureaucracy slowed everything. By the time orders were given, more planets had fallen. Millions of aliens fled their homes. Millions more died. Admiral Seogin watched the reports from his ship in the Outer Rim. He was an older man, gray-haired and quiet. He had spent his career preparing for a war he hoped would never come. Now war had found them anyway. How bad? Asked Captain Taeho, standing beside him. Very bad, Seochin replied. The Concord is losing. Their fleet tactics are outdated. The Morthok exploit every weakness. What do we do? Seokyun was silent for a moment. Then he turned to face the captain. We have 30 operational ships with fold drives. The Silith, Torvak, and Keth have given us 40 more, crewed by volunteers who trust us. Our technology is better than anything the Concord has seen. But 70 ships against the Morthok invasion fleet. He shook his head. It would be a risk. Taeho looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, aliens who had laughed at humanity were dying. Aliens who had called them primitives and sent them to die in the Outer Rim. Part of him, a dark and angry part. I thought they deserved it, but there were children on those worlds. Families, innocent people who had never laughed at anyone. People who were scared and desperate and needed help. We helped them, Taeho said. They will not thank us. Do not care about thanks. I care about who we are. Seokjin smiled, just a little. I was hoping you would say that. The message arrived at the Concord Council during an emergency session. A simple transmission from the Outer Rim. From humanity, we offer assistance. The Valkyrie Council leader read the message out loud. For a moment there was silence. Then someone laughed. It was a nervous laugh, uncertain. Others joined in. The primitives wanted to help. The Class 9 species with their tiny rockets and their tiny outposts. Let them come, the council leader said, still amused. What harm can 30 ships do? Perhaps they will distract the Morthok for a few minutes. 3 days later, Admiral Seochin's fleet arrived at the battle zone. The Morthok had surrounded a Concord colony world with 2,000 ships. The Concord defense fleet, nearly 4,000 strong, was being pushed back. They were losing. Then space itself seemed to break apart. Human ships appeared from nowhere. Not flying through space, but folding it, appearing instantly across impossible distances. 30 ships became visible, then 40 more, then 70 total. They were small compared to Concord vessels. Ugly, mismatched, but they moved like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. The first Morthok warship exploded before it could even turn to face the threat. Human weapons fired in frequencies that Morthok shields could not block. Engineer Wu Jin had spent months studying alien defensive technology. Finding the gaps that everyone else ignored, Admiral Seojin gave his orders calmly. Formation 7. Target their command ships first, Human vessels folded in and out of normal space, appearing beside Morthok commanders, firing, then vanishing before return fire could arrive. The Morthok fleet fell into chaos. They could not track enemies who would not stay in one place. Their algorithms could not predict tactics that no species had ever used before. Lieutenant Ahana commanded a small squadron from her ship. She had studied the Morthok formation for days, looking for patterns. Now she used those patterns against them. They always protect their left flank, she said to her pilots, because their commanders are taught that the left is sacred, so we attack from the left. Not to hurt them, but to panic them. When they panic, they cluster together. And when they cluster, she did not need to finish. Her pilots understood. Clustered ships made easy targets. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the Morthok invasion fleet was broken. Not destroyed completely, but crippled. Their command ships were gone. Their formation was scattered. They began to retreat. Admiral Seokjin opened a channel to the Morthok survivors. He could have given the order to destroy them all. No one would have blamed him. But that was not who humans chose to be. You have lost, he said simply. Go home. Do not return. If you come back, we will be here again. The Morthok fled. On the Concord world below, millions of aliens watched the sky in disbelief. They had expected to die. They had expected their children to be taken as slaves. Instead, they were saved by the species their leaders called primitive. But it was what happened next that truly shocked the galaxy. Human ships began rescue operations. Not just for Concord citizens, but for everyone. When they found Morthok escape pods floating in the wreckage, they rescued those survivors too. They provided medical care, food, safety. Among the human crews was an old woman named Nari. She was not a soldier. She was not a scientist. She was a grandmother who had insisted on joining the relief effort because, as she said, someone needs to take care of people who are scared. A recording spread across galactic networks. It showed Nari holding a small alien child, a Velthari youngling whose parents had died in the attack. The child was crying, making sounds of terror and grief. Nari held it gently, speaking in Korean words the child could not understand. But her tone was universal. Soft, safe, loving. It is okay, she whispered, rocking the child. You are safe now. I have you. You are safe. The image became the most viewed recording in Concord history. More viewed than humanity's humiliation years ago. More viewed than any battle or political speech or entertainment program. Trillions of aliens saw it. They saw a human, a member of the species they had mocked and forgotten, showing more compassion than most had ever witnessed. G-1. The intelligence operative who had arranged for the recording to spread watched the reactions from his hidden post. Messages flooded galactic networks. Questions that had never been asked before. Who are these humans? How did they develop such technology? Why did they help us when we treated them so badly? The Concord Council demanded answers. They summoned Tejo to appear before them. They expected explanations. Apologies, perhaps? Maybe even surrender of human technology. They did not expect what came next, Captain. Captain Tejo stood before the same council that had laughed at him years ago. But he was different now. The galaxy had seen what humanity could do. They had seen human courage and human compassion. The laughter had stopped. You want to know why we helped you, Tejo said. It was not a question. You want to know how we developed our technology? You want to know what we want in return? The Velthari Council leader leaned forward. Yes. Tejo smiled. The answers are simple. We helped because it was right. We developed our technology because we never stopped asking questions. And what we want. He paused, looking at each council member in turn. We want to know if you are ready to change, because the old ways are dying, and we are the ones who are going to bury them. The council chamber was silent. For the first time in living memory, the Velthari had nothing to say. Humanity had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same. The Velthari did not accept change easily. For 10,000 years they had ruled the galaxy. They had built the Concord. They had created the ranking system that put species in their proper place. The idea that primitives, that Class 9 humans, could challenge their authority was unthinkable, so they decided to end the problem. 3 weeks after the battle against the Morthok, the Velthari Grand Fleet assembled near Earth's solar system. 2,000 warships, the largest force the Concord had deployed in centuries. Their message was simple: surrender your technology. Accept revaluation. Submit to Velthari guidance, or face destruction. Captain Tejo received the ultimatum on his ship. He read it once, then handed it to Lieutenant Hannah. "Oh, they want everything," she said. "Our fold drives, our weapons, our research." "They are scared," Tejo replied. "Scared species do stupid things. What do we do?" Tejo looked out at the stars. Somewhere beyond them, 2,000 ships waited to destroy everything humanity had built. He thought about his crew, his people, his world. He thought about the years of work and sacrifice and hope. Then he thought about something else. Something the Velthari had never understood. "Call the others," he said. "It is time." On the Concord Council world, Dr. Yuna stood before the assembly. She had been summoned to explain human technology, to apologize for it, to promise it would be handed over. Instead, she gave a lecture. "You stopped asking questions," she told the council. Her voice was calm, almost friendly. "Thousands of years ago, you achieved what you believed was perfection. Your technology stopped improving. Your science stopped advancing. Your societies stopped growing." The Velthari leader interrupted. "We achieved stability, peace, order. You achieved stagnation," Yuna corrected. "You became so afraid of change that you stopped changing entirely. And when you stopped changing, you stopped learning. Your best scientists are less curious than human children. Your greatest engineers copy designs from 10,000 years ago without ever asking why." "This is insulting," another council member said, "as truth. And truth is often uncomfortable." Yuna pressed a button on her device. A display appeared in the air, showing equations and diagrams. "This is the fold drive theory that your scientists have worked on for millennia. This is the version I developed in 6 years. Not because I am smarter than them. Because I was willing to question things they accepted as fact." She showed them more. Weapons improvements, shield modifications, medical advances. In every case, human scientists had looked at Concord technology and asked simple questions. Why this way? What if we tried something different? What are we missing? The council watched in growing silence. They had expected primitives. They had expected ignorance. Instead, they saw that humanity had surpassed them, not through luck or tricks, but through something the Concord had lost long ago. Curiosity near Earth. The Velthari fleet prepared to attack. Their admiral was confident. 2,000 ships against maybe 50 human vessels. The primitives had surprised them once. Surely they could not stand against such overwhelming force. Then the human ships appeared. Not 50. Not 100. 500 vessels emerged from fold space, surrounding the Velthari fleet. Human ships, yes, but also others. Torvak cruisers rebuilt with human technology, Silith destroyers, crewed by survivors who owed humanity their lives. Keth fighters, piloted by a species that had thought itself extinct until humans gave them hope, and more. Dozens of species from the Outer Rim, the Forgotten, the Abandoned. The ones the Concord had written off as worthless. Admiral C.O. Gajin opened a channel to the Velthari commander. His voice was calm, almost gentle. "You believed we were alone," he said. "You believed we had no friends. You were wrong." The Velthari admiral stared at his sensors in disbelief. "Those ships. They have fold drives. How is this possible?" "Humanity does not keep secrets from friends," C.O. Chin replied. Dr. Yuna shared her research freely. "Every species that earned our trust received our technology, because that is who we are. We build each other up, instead of tearing each other down." Behind him, Mina smiled. 6 years of building alliances, 6 years of keeping promises. Every freed prisoner, every protected refugee, Every act of kindness had led to this moment. You have a choice, Seochin continued. You can fight. 2,000 against 500. You might win, but it will cost you. Or you can turn around, go home, and tell your leaders that the old ways are over. The Velthari admiral was silent for a long moment. He looked at his sensors again. The Allied fleet was in perfect formation, surrounding his ships on all sides. Their weapons were powered and ready, but it was not the numbers that broke him. It was the image that appeared on his screen, a recording from the Morthok battle, now spreading across Concord space. The old human woman Nari holding the Velthari child who had lost everything, showing kindness to a species that had only ever shown humanity contempt. Why? The admiral asked, his voice barely a whisper. After everything we did to you, after we laughed at you, exiled you, tried to destroy you, why would you show mercy to our children? Seochin's answer was simple. Because hatred is easy, kindness is hard, and humanity has never been afraid of hard things. The Velthari fleet withdrew. Not a single shot was fired. Across the galaxy, billions of aliens watched the standoff. They saw the moment when the greatest military power in Concord history backed down from a coalition of species. They had called primitives and trash. The reaction was immediate. On Concord worlds, oppressed species began to protest, not with violence but with presence. They stood in public squares and demanded the same rights that Concord promised but never delivered. They carried signs with human words translated into their languages. Words like freedom and equality and hope. Human volunteers stood beside them. Not as leaders, but as friends. They helped organize. They provided protection. They showed the galaxy that change was possible. The Velthari government collapsed within a month. Not from invasion or war, but from shame. Their own citizens demanded answers. Why had they treated other species so badly? Why had they been so afraid of change? Why had primitives shown more wisdom than ancient leaders? On Earth, Teho watched the news in his office. Yuna sat across from him, looking tired but satisfied. Is it over? She asked. Teho shook his head. It is just beginning. The old order is broken, but nothing has replaced it yet. That is the dangerous part. Power vacuums attract the worst kinds of people. What do? Teho thought for a moment. We do what we have always done. We ask questions. We help people. We build things that last. His communicator beeped. A message from Mina. The Coalition of Free Species has formally requested our help in restructuring the Concord, he read. They want human representatives at the table. Yuna smiled. Representatives? Not leaders? We never wanted to lead. We wanted to change things. And the best way to change things is from inside. Far away, in a hospital on a Concord world, Elder Nari rocked a sleeping child. Not the Velthari youngling from before, but a small Keth, newly orphaned by the chaos of recent events. She hummed an old Korean song, one her own grandmother had sung to her decades ago. On a small blue planet that the galaxy had once called primitive, the song had no translation. It did not need one. Its meaning was clear in every language. You are loved. You are safe. Everything will be all right. The revolution had truly begun. 1 year had passed since the Velthari fleet turned away from Earth. 1 year of chaos and hope and change. The galaxy was different now. It would never go back to what it was before. The Galactic Concord still existed, but everything about it had changed. The tier system was gone. No more Class 9 primitives. No more ranking species like products on a shelf. Every civilization, no matter how old or young, had an equal voice. Captain Teho stood at the center of the Grand Assembly. He was older now, his hair turning gray at the edges, but his eyes were the same as they had always been. Calm, determined, ready, around. Hem sat representatives from 100 species. Some had been members of the Concord for millennia. Others, like the Keth and Silith and Torvak, were attending for the first time as equals. They looked nervous and hopeful and scared, all at once. Teho understood. He had felt the same way years ago when he first stepped onto that alien ship and faced the Velthari's laughter. "We were mocked," he began, his voice carrying across the vast chamber. "We were dismissed. We were sent to die in the darkest corner of the galaxy. And when we refused to die, when we grew stronger instead of weaker, we were treated as threats." He paused, looking at the faces around him. Alien faces. Strange and beautiful and different. But under all those differences, they were the same. They were people. They had hopes and fears and dreams. "We did not come here for revenge," Tejo continued. "Revenge is easy. Revenge feels good for a moment and then leaves you empty. We came here because we believe in something better. We believe that every species has value. We believe that cooperation is stronger than domination. We believe that the galaxy can be a place where children grow up without fear." Somewhere in the crowd, Mina sat with the coalition of free species. She had worked harder than anyone to make this moment possible. All those years of building trust, making alliances, keeping promises. Now she watched as those promises became reality. "Today, we begin again," Tejo said. "Not as rulers and subjects, not as superiors and primitives, but as partners, as neighbors, as friends." He stepped back from the podium. The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, applause began. It grew louder and louder until it filled the room like thunder. The new galactic concord was born in the months that followed. Humanity did something that confused many aliens. They did not take over. They did not demand the best positions or the most resources. Instead, they shared. Everything they had learned, every technology they had developed, was offered freely to anyone who wanted it. Dr. Yuna established the Open Science Initiative. Her laboratories became schools where young scientists from every species came to learn. Not just technical knowledge, but something deeper. How to ask questions. How to challenge assumptions. How to keep looking even when the answers seemed impossible. "The full drive was not my creation alone," she told her students. "It was the product of thousands of years of human curiosity. Every scientist who came before me, every question ever asked, led to that moment." Science is not about individuals. It is about building on each other's work. It is about standing on the shoulders of everyone who came before. Her students listened with wide eyes. Many of them came from species that had stopped innovating centuries ago. The idea that they could contribute, that they could discover new things, was strange and exciting. Within a year, alien scientists began making breakthroughs of their own. A Torvac engineer improved the fold drive efficiency by 12%. A Silith physicist discovered a new form of energy storage. A young Keth, barely old enough to be called an adult, proposed a theory of communication that could send messages across galaxies in seconds instead of years. Humanity celebrated every discovery as if it were their own, because in a way, it was. They had given the galaxy permission to be curious again, and the galaxy had responded with wonder. Lieutenant Hannah became the commander of the first integrated peacekeeping force. Humans served alongside Velthari, Torvac, Silith, and dozens of other species. They trained together, lived together, learned to trust each other. "The hardest part is not the fighting," Hannah told her officers. "The hardest part is believing that someone different from you can have your back. That takes time. That takes patience. That takes countless small moments of choosing trust over suspicion." Her force was tested many times. Pirates still raided the Outer Rim. Old conflicts still flared up between ancient enemies. But every time the integrated fleet responded. Not with overwhelming force, but with precision and compassion. They protected the innocent. They offered surrender to the guilty. They showed the galaxy that strength and mercy could exist together. Engineer Wuzhen never wanted to be famous. He preferred his workshop, his tools, his endless projects. But young engineers from across the galaxy found their way to him anyway. They came to learn his way of thinking. "Nothing is perfect," he would tell them, "covered in grease as always. Everything can be improved. The moment you think you have finished something is the moment you have stopped growing. Always ask, what is next? What is possible? What has everyone else missed?" His workshop became a place of miracles. Strange inventions appeared, some useful, some absurd, all beautiful. A ship engine that ran on starlight, a medical device that could heal wounds in seconds, a tool for growing food in the vacuum of space. Wu Jin never took credit. He put his students' names on every patent, every paper, every discovery. "I am just a teacher," he said. "They are the future." And through it all, there was Nari. The old grandmother had become the most recognized human in the galaxy. Not because she was powerful or brilliant or important, but because she was kind. The image of her holding that crying Velthary child had touched something deep in billions of hearts. She spent her final year traveling. She visited refugee camps and orphanages and hospitals. She held hands with the sick. She sang songs to the scared. She told stories to children who had never known peace. "Why do you do this?" a reporter asked her once. "You are old. You could rest." Nari smiled, her wrinkled face warm and soft. "Rest is for later. Right now, there are children who need someone to tell them they matter. That is more important than rest." She passed away peacefully, surrounded by friends from a dozen species. Her funeral was broadcast across the galaxy. Billions watched. Billions mourned, but they also celebrated. Because Nari had shown them what humanity really was. Not technology or military power or political influence. Humanity was kindness. Humanity was compassion. Humanity was the belief that every life had value. Years passed. The galaxy continued to change. On a distant world, in a small school built by human volunteers, a young alien child sat in a history class. The teacher, a Keth elder, who had been freed from slavery by humans long ago, taught them about the revolution. The humans came from nothing, the teacher said. They were laughed at, dismissed, written off as worthless. But they did not give up. They did not become bitter. They worked hard, helped others, and proved everyone wrong. The child raised a small appendage. "Teacher, why did the galaxy laugh at them?" The teacher was quiet for a moment. Because the galaxy was afraid. When something new arrives, something different, it is easier to mock it than to understand it. The humans taught us that we were wrong to do that. Do you think there are other species out there? New ones that we have not met yet? The teacher smiled, showing small teeth. Certainly. The universe is vast. There will always be new species to discover, new friends to make, new things to learn. Will we laugh at them? No, the teacher said firmly. We will welcome them. We will help them. Because that is what the humans taught us. That is the legacy of Tahoe and Yuna and Nari and all the others. Kindness is strength. Compassion is power. And everyone deserves a chance to prove themselves. Far away on a human starship traveling through unexplored space, Sergeant Daesung stood on the bridge. He was old now, his hair white, his body tired. But he had refused retirement. There was too much left to see. He pulled out a photograph, worn and faded. It showed the original team taken years ago when they first arrived in the Outer Rim. Tahoe, Johanna, Wu Jin, Mina, Nari. Some are gone now. Others had retired to peaceful lives. But their work continued. Daesung smiled and tucked the photograph away. Then he turned to his crew, a mix of humans and aliens, young and eager and full of hope. "All right," he said. "Let us see what is next." The ship engaged its fold drive. Space twisted and bent around them. Stars blurred into lines of light, and humanity continued forward, into the unknown, carrying the galaxy with them. The revolution had not ended. It had only begun. And as long as there were questions to ask and people to help and stars to explore, it would never truly be finished, because that was what it meant to be human. Never stop. Never surrender. Never forget that kindness is the greatest power of all. The stars waited. Bright and endless and full of possibility, and humanity answered.